All right, Dr. Grace Liu, welcome to the Biohacker Babes. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's such a pleasure, such an honor. Oh my gosh, you guys, I've been watching and like hearing you guys for so long and following you on Instagram.
Oh,
Uh,
oh, thank
Thank you.
you.
Likewise,
Right.
we've been
Yeah.
following you for I think almost a decade, we determined. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. This is such an exciting day. I can't wait to geek out with you on everything gut health. I think this is just such a fascinating topic, and you are the guru when it comes to everything gut health, and hence the name, the Gut Goddess, right? Love your Instagram. Lots of good stuff on there. So, to kick it off, I think we have to talk about the famous quote by Hippocrates: all disease begins in the gut. This has been around for over 2000 years. This is like not anything new. But in modern medicine, it seems like we're still overlooking the gut a lot, especially when we come, we're looking at chronic disease, obesity, diabetes, heart disease. It's like physicians aren't talking about the gut. So to kick it off, why do you think that is? Why do you think some practitioners are still not starting with gut health?
I think because it's like a dark box, right? It's like the black dark box. We don't have a great way of testing it. I mean, I love functional medicine and functional medicine lab tests like organic acids or stool kits, right? But they're terrible. They don't tell us anything. I mean,
Well said.
they don't tell us shit. So yeah, like, and all these like false diagnoses kind of in a way, and they miss things. They miss really really critical things that are just so obvious, and I feel bad. Like, makes our field, our integrative medicine field, look kind of stupid. We know antibiotics has created a lot of problems. Like, there's just hundreds and like literally hundreds and hundreds of studies that come out every month that show that antibiotics are just so terrible for our health. It leads to cancers and chronic diseases and autoimmunity when we lose those keystone flora. So, but it's hard to attribute, right? There's no direct cause, but we do have a lot of animal studies and now human studies that show, this obesity epidemic in children now. First time children are dying before their parents or grandparents. It can be attributed, there's a statistical correlation with the use of antibiotics. The more antibiotics, the more obesity. Because when we
Mm.
our keystone flora, we don't have that protection. And then, yeah, and we knew, Hippocrates knew that, and he didn't know about peptides, but I feel our regeneration starts in the gut. So disease may start in the gut, but also our regeneration, our famous, most awesome peptide, BPC 157, it's created in the gut. And it was Pavlov who was studying the gut contents, gastric extracts from the dogs he studied, he used these extracts and found BPC and a fragment of it. He would put it into disease models or create rodent animal models, and literally this peptide would save their lives or like reverse the chronic disease, heal the torn Achilles, heal even concussed animals, and he tried to like toxify them with, or other researchers in Eastern Europe bloc, they gave like lethal doses of arsenic. If they had BPC 157 on board, they didn't die. They thrived, actually. Isn't that crazy?
Wow. Wow.
Like
Yeah.
BPC 157. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's so much in the peptide world, which we're excited to pick your brain about. But I think it's such an interesting comment that you said disease starts in the gut, but healing also starts in the gut. And a lot of us, particularly in the biohacking world, are just like health gurus and health enthusiasts, all want to just add more things to fix the problem. But I think we're often overlooking like eliminating things that can help the gut in its natural healing abilities.
Yeah.
Maybe, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on things like fasting or removing sensitivities or just giving your body like natural tools through circadian rhythm to do its thing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. How do we honor the ancestral rhythms that we already have? How do we preserve them or bring them back online? Exactly. That heals so much for so many people, very simply.
Yeah. So,
Mm.
where, as far as behaviors and lifestyles, before we get into the peptides and the other modalities, like what are the basics that we need to make sure that we are considering, nailing, being consistent with? What do we need to do to make
Oh,
sure
yeah.
our lifestyle is on point?
Right. Like, so like I'm very dark skinned. I'm not like a fair Irish, chick. So I had to get a spurty like lamp at one point, because I was just not honoring the rhythms that my ancestors had. Like they were probably equator dwellers, people who live near the equator and had a lot of sunlight all year round.
Mm-hmm.
So I get like weird conditions like during the winter, like blues and gut issues. And the Spurdy lamp has helped a lot. I have to crank it like a couple cycles, like, 5, 10, 15 minutes, but it's been so helpful. So just people getting sunlight at peak times, but any time of the day is ideal because it's a circadian rhythm that we might be missing, right? And just the EMF ones, I love the EMF mats, all of them. They're great, or whole body EMF, PEMF, so healing. And they help me to get my heart rate variability improved. But some people just don't go out much. I definitely don't even do this, but like, the grounding and like walking around barefoot. My happiest times are always the vacation where I'm barefoot, running around, or in a bikini running around swimming, and but we don't do that year round, or we can't because it's too cold, right? Yeah. So
I'd love to go in my backyard and just fully lay out like I'm on a PEMF mat, but I have a dog that, goes number 1, number 2. So I can tiptoe around the backyard. I probably can't lay out. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So what's the connection with sun and like gut and gut health? Because like I definitely experienced that too, like more like winter blues when I lived in the Northeast. Now that I live in Vegas with endless sunshine, my mood is so much better. But what's the gut connection there?
So vitamin D in clinical studies, it just heals our immune system, and it's a natural way of sealing and healing the gut. It improves permeability. So anything that improves permeability is going to be something people should consider for overall gut health and microbiome management.
Yeah.
Vitamin D, it'll raise thyroid levels, it'll raise testosterone, progesterone levels, just micro amounts. But for some people that means they don't need to take bio-HRT, hormone replacement therapy.
That's huge.
Which would be amazing because that's a huge box of confusion, and the dosage and the timing. And it's like, maybe just get some sunshine. I like that a lot. In terms of permeability, we know like this is a survival mechanism. Our gut becomes permeable in case we need the resources to fight or flee or fight a modern day tiger. But when it comes to resealing the gut, that seems to be the piece, like we don't know how to close the gates again. Is it just stress? Is it environmental stressors? What's kind of your hit list of things we need to look at?
Right. So you might have seen me. I spoke at one of the paleo conferences in Texas, and I spoke about athletes, and I drilled down some of the big studies where athletes, when they're doing conditioning training, just like I work with some MMA fighters and doing their supplement programs, any kind of physical stressor with the mental stressor, will induce gut issues like diarrhea, loose stools. And at the worst, when it was like an endurance training or an endurance event, there were emboli in the gut. Like literally, it's like a gut heart attack. Like people had to go in, they had a clot in their splenic bed, which is our blood flow area for the GI tract. So stress just isn't great. Yeah, you're right. For fighting and fleeing, it's wonderful. It'll constrict blood vessels to where we don't need it, like the gut, and let it go to the brain or big muscles like glutes and hamstrings and other muscles, right? But if this is ongoing all the time, our bodies can't handle it. So there's a wonderful researcher out in Australia, Tremolin. He's at the Adelaide School of Pharmacy. He did this amazing study. I got really interested in hormones because I had a Mirena IUD, so I had to like hack how to get my hormones back up after the damage related to that. And a lot of men go through similar things on the male side. They're in a low T andropause and they're only 20. Like I have more T than some men, but it's an epidemic problem. So Tremlin, he did a study, really healthy men, like they were age like 18 to 40, I think 40. So at peak kind of, and he gave them a low dose of lipopolysaccharide. It's the gram-negative bacteria cell wall, just a teeny dose, 0.8 nanograms per kilo. Their testosterone tanked within 6 hours, but they were healthy young dudes. Within a few hours, it was all back normal, fine again. But we all have some degree of permeability, and stressors, like you mentioned, cortisol, it will cause that permeability, and whatever's in the gut, whether it's good or bad, right, it will start to seep into the bloodstream. And that's why I think it really, because when I see clients, they go through our gut protocols and high dose probiotics, they seal their gut, and we don't do testosterone replacement unless we really want to. They will see their testosterone even triple because it was so low to begin with, right? So their free T may go up, or their total T will triple or double at least, like sometimes when, depending on how low it is. Now for women, it's the same as well. We have an epidemic of infertility in young women. There's a variety of reasons, right? PCOS or insulin resistance, or just like physical issues, endometrial, thickness and inflammation, ovarian cysts and fibroids. But we'll see clients, their progesterone will double or triple as well because they start off so low, and then they get into the fertility range and they're ready to have kids shortly, or they might have gone through a couple failed IVF already, in vitro fertilization attempts. And these aren't cheap. And sometimes insurance covers it, sometimes not, and they're 25 to 50K each pop. And the first 3 or 4 sometimes won't stick. So this is like a big issue and financial burden for a lot of couples who want to have children. And a lot of it might be just their gut, because we also get exposed to parasites. All right. Salmon, sushi, salads all have parasites. People have pets, they lick their faces. Their pet is and a few other parasites and toxoplasmosis. So I'm not trying to figure out, like, if we have a good gut microbiome, I don't care how many parasites people have, I'll just leave it. But if they have a really good gut microbiome, that's what protects us. And ancestrally, we've always had parasites. They're not really a big deal. And some practitioners in my field, they even use parasites as treatment to switch like Th1 and 2 and helper cells to move in a different direction to heal autoimmunity or heal, even cancer, like the immune system. So they're not bad. Yeah, I don't want to too much. Yeah.
But I think that's so fascinating. It's like, if you're healthy, we are able to modulate and heal these things. I don't know if you're speaking of Dr. Piper, but she's someone that comes to mind where she does actually inoculate with parasites.
Yeah.
It can blow some people's minds. Like, why would you intentionally put them in there? But
exactly. Right. Well, these are the safe ones. Like, they'll introduce it on the arm, but they will die off after a few weeks or a month or 2. Yeah.
Yeah. So cool.
Residual in there. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So any other tips for healing that permeability or leaky gut, like BPC or glutamine?
Yeah, our leaky gut protocol, people can go to our dispensary, but I use kind of pharmaceutical doses of certain items. So we do Mega IgG by Microbiome Labs. Is a fabulous product, but there's other IgG, products out there. They're fabulous. We do the pharmaceutical dose, which is in clinical studies with humans. We do 8 to 10 capsules twice a day. It also comes in a powder scoop. Yeah, people can just like put it into shake or fiber shake. Yeah. We also do pharmaceutical doses of SPM. So these are specialized pro-resolving mediators. It's like steroids on roids. And it can all kinds of inflammation if people tolerate it. There is a bit of histamines in it. So it's not for all mast cell people, but it often is really well tolerated in mast cell as well. It's a derivative of omega-3. So if we're really stressed out, we don't make SPMs in our body. And so then we get into inflammatory syndromes like chronic pain, colitis, gut issues, and cancer. So in human studies, it's shown to reduce chronic pain, back pain, and reduce cancers. In Japan, they IV it. It's really potent. It's very effective. And it's also used for IBD and colitis syndrome. So SPMs are always really helpful for that. And reverse.
Is there a way to test for SPMs in the blood or stool?
At this time, I don't think so. Maybe academic centers might do it. I mean, there's a lot of omega and essential fatty acid kind of studies we can do, but in general, unless people are supplementing, I suspect everyone's low. Just like unless they're taking our gut reset protocol, which is at thegutinstitute.com/gut reset. Like, unless they're doing a potent, high quality, ultra potent probiotic like ours, I always, know people are missing the keystone species. They're missing Akkermansia, they're missing all the good bifidos, they're missing all the good Bacteroides, and they're missing all the good butyrate makers. They're just missing it. Every test will show that over and over, unless they, we promote like weeding, seeding, and feeding, and also while supporting peptides and permeability, minimizing permeability. So the third part, so we do Mega IgG and SPM and our probiotic, because these are what will eventually like bring on the butyrate. But in the meantime, sometimes we'll do some butyrate as well too. Like tributyrin is a great product. Many companies make it right now. But our probiotic will eventually put in all the whole gut species that belong there, which is amazing because you bring on one friend or ally, all the rest will come back again. Yeah, when it's
come to the party. Yeah,
exactly. Right.
Micro party. Yeah.
We'll stop the like frat boy partying, right, and then move to like a more
sophisticated
party. Yeah. The frat boy parties are bad, but like more of a productive like community building sangha. That would be good.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
I have to ask you about testing. I think before I go further, what I want to hear your honest opinion. It's like seems like there's new gut tests coming out, like stool tests, metabolomics, organic acids. Like,
Yes.
what should we do?
So I love them all. They all give us like a slice of information. I just think it's
Okay.
important to know what their limitations are. Yeah. So I
Hmm.
would run so many stool kits on people, like by Genova Diagnostics, by the CDSA, by Doctors Data or other companies, and Mosaic, which used to be Great Plains. We used to run a lot of stool, and they would say over and over, "Oh, no yeast," but it's impossible. Like these people have had 50 million courses of antibiotics. Like, of course, there's yeast. Like, there's yeast coming out of their nose, their ears, their eyeballs, vaginas, prostates. Like, of course, there's yeast. But the test would always say, "Oh, there's none," and that's just ridiculously stupid. And then I would run an organic metabolomic test, and undoubtedly, like there'd be high yeast markers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really
Okay.
like the Mosaic one because they have 12 markers for fungal overgrowth, oxalates, 3 oxalate markers, and then 9 different fungal markers, where at least half of them are actually aspergillus markers. And for aspergillus and mold, we really shouldn't have any in the system. Their normals are based on like cornfield. they're in Kansas, and it's all their normals are like in the corn belt, and so they're all getting like tons of GMO corn and gut problems, I suspect. And as we know, most are like morbidly obese as well, and they consider that normal, but it's not. So I
Yeah.
consider the mold marker should be 0, and the
Mhm.
SIBO, the Clostridium markers on the Mosaic should also be 0. So that's what we see when people heal. They do weeding seeding protocols, and the leaky gut protocol I just mentioned, 8 to 10 twice a day of eventually our probiotic, some SPM, and the mega IgG. We do 8 a day minimum, but 8 twice a day is the ideal number eventually, right? And then we heal it, and these markers go literally to almost 0 or 0. And that's the healing, that's the healthy metabolomic picture for people when they've healed their chronic illnesses, aches, pains, fibromyalgia, their hormone issues, and a lot of like autoimmunity. Or we're seeing a lot of long haul now, long COVID, I see. And it's
Yeah.
all picture. Yeah, sadly. Yeah. Because they
Yeah.
will that the receptors, the ACE2 receptors for COVID are in the gut. So there's tremendous dysbiosis, whether people feel it or not. Yeah, it's silent dysbiosis. And it's important to
Oh.
address that for full healing.
That's always so interesting to me
Okay.
when there's a lack of symptoms. Like maybe people intuitively are like, something's not right, but they don't have the list of symptoms, which is why we
Exactly.
bring in the testing. But I'm curious because I think we all have seen and heard about these stool tests or oat tests that maybe change from day to day, or maybe it's like we can't really trust them. How much crossover are you seeing with then blood chemistry? Are you always looking for confirmation in another test, or are you just
It's
doing
actually,
multiple tests?
I mean, I just go by what people say. I mean, it's pretty obvious. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Like if their HRV is off or they're dealing with multiple chronic conditions, usually they are when you dig.
Yeah.
Mm.
So something like a fungus, like a fungal overgrowth, maybe they're not symptomatic, but I guess what are you commonly hearing in those cases
I mean, it really varies
beyond HRV?
on the person, like struggling with weight loss,
Mm-hmm.
hormones won't come back. Like
Mm-hmm.
their progesterone's just in the tank or their testosterone's in the tank.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Aches and body pain, that's abnormal in my opinion. That signals other
Yeah.
stuff going on. Yeah. Fibromyalgia, interstitial cystitis, could be anything, chronic UTIs, chronic yeast infections, men, prostate or ED, erectile dysfunction. I mean, it could be anything. Hair loss, acne.
Yeah.
Skin is a great marker,
Yeah.
yeah, like with COVID, a lot of people tell me like, oh my God, I look haggard and I didn't look that way before. I experienced that, and I also couldn't lose weight. But I also used to be morbidly overweight, so anything could trigger that, for me to come back again. But I couldn't lose weight, and I was like, I must have long COVID, and I did. So I just started all the long COVID protocols. One uh, product we use a lot, which just helps so many different things, is curcumin seed oil, preferably organic.
Mm.
Yeah, it really will halt like long haul for the mild to moderate cases, and it heals the gut. It's really great for the gut.
Can you
Oh,
explain the
okay.
mechanism behind it or the
It's
properties?
a longevity seed oil, and it's powerful. It's been used for like millennia in Egypt and Middle East. Yeah, and the flowers are really beautiful. And it's it's like in China we have black sesame seed. That's probably our equivalent, but you can't really get an oil out of that, I don't think, because someone should make that. But the black seed oil just is so powerful for its ORAC value, and it's very highly antiviral, anti-H. pylori, anti-giardia in studies and other things, and it's anti-mold, anti-yeast, anti-candida.
All
And
the good antis.
Yeah, and it's so yummy. You can just like throw it onto a salad, yeah. So there's a lot of mild to moderate long haul. We quickly quench it with that.
Wow,
Very
that's pretty
cool.
powerful.
Yeah,
So
I don't
is
know
there
much
anyone
about
that
that.
shouldn't be using that? Is there
I can't
any?
think of a contraindication, but for people
Oh.
trying to get pregnant, it can slow motility of sperm. And for women, even they're ingesting it, it probably works the same mechanism. It will, like, it's a kind of birth control, and they used it in the old days for birth control too.
I assume that's because
Okay.
we're trying to divert resources
Right.
to inflammation, oxidative stress. You don't want to get pregnant at the same time.
Well, I think
right?
sperm kind of act like bacteria. It's like halting it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone trying to get pregnant, we caution them and have them consider stopping.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Great.
Yeah.
I
It's
gotta
funny.
dig into that one.
I saw an email yesterday come through and it was like a webinar, black cumin seed oil. It does everything except kill you. So it was like something like very drastic.
Yeah.
I was like, that's quite the headline to get you to sign up for the webinar. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess
Yeah.
it does a lot. So
It does
that's
a lot.
powerful.
It's really powerful. Yeah. For long haul, not a lot of things work on it sometimes, yeah. Yeah, it'll be tough. Even peptides aren't going to do much for long haul.
Okay. So
Okay.
is that your number one? Anything else you will put in that basket?
For long haul?
For long haul, for reducing inflammation, oxidative stress in that particular situation?
Yeah, so a weeding seeding protocol is ideal, working with a clinician or someone trained by, us with our protocols. But I look at the gut testing. Parasites also, like yeast, they don't really show up. So, you have to, a lot of my parasite mentors, they're like, when we ask them like, oh, well, who has parasites? Because since all the testing sucks, they're like, well, have them feel their pulse. Okay, do they feel a pulse? Okay, they have parasites. Like,
oh my gosh, I fell for it. I'm like counting my heartbeats.
Yeah. I've heard that. Yeah. So we all have parasites.
Yeah, but are we out of balance with them? Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of a comprehensive protocol, though, because when you don't have the good gut flora, everything just will invade, it'll end up in the system until we have that strong firewall. It's like our computer, if we have a strong firewall, we can open multiple windows, no problem, they don't crash, right? But as soon as we don't have a good firewall, or they get maxed out, like there's fatigue, right, exhaustion, then the windows just start crashing, and you have to keep restarting and resetting. Yeah, so it's kind of a reset. We have to consider that, because the antibiotics really make a big deal. Yeah, and when I talk to people, either they have had the antibiotic or their mom had a lot of antibiotics, or
Yeah.
C-section. If they're younger, their mom might have had a C-section or Pitocin. So a lot of moms don't know this, but they're getting IV antibiotics with each of these interventions.
It's important to dig a little deeper.
Yeah, it's protect the hospital. So there's, less sepsis cases. Some hospitals, they get fined with sepsis cases because it can indicate, poor protocol compliance and things like that. So
interesting.
Yeah, the number of antibiotics people get, or for cosmetic surgeries, or I had dental work and they try to give you antibiotics each time, and they're not like wimpy antibiotics. It's like clindamycin or like metronidazole, really strong probiotics that will knock out bifido and also other keystone flora. And as soon as with metronidazole, one antibiotic, like there's countless cases of psychiatric issues after that. Because once we lose our bifido and other positives, positive bacteria, we lose that fortification for the gut-brain barrier and the gut-brain access. Yeah, and it leaves like so many holes. That's when Babesia goes in, or Bartonella, or Lyme, or many other co-infections that coexist with us.
And again, if our gut microbiome is strong, we should be able to I don't know, healthfully go to war with these and recover, right? So
Exactly. Yeah.
where do we begin with repopulating? Like, what are some of these other keystone species besides the bifido, or else, or maybe you can share some of your product line that you find really helpful?
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up, because when we have all the good flora in there, they're making all kinds of peptides. They're called AMPs, antimicrobial peptides. They're not just antimicrobial, they're regenerative. We've had these since the dawn of time before broad spectrum antibiotics came along, and they have to get fed, so a weeding feeding protocol also includes some fiber, whatever people tolerate, psyllium, inulin, all of those good things, oligosaccharides. And to reset the gut, it's really to eventually get to 8 or 10 capsules of our probiotic, Microbiome Mojo, or Bifida Maximus, our original signature blend. People can go to the whatgutinstitute.com/gut reset and use Babes10 for 10% off for your affiliate feed. But eventually,
Thank you.
that protocol, to eventually get in these strains to the levels that ancestrally we had populate our gut. And for bifido, it's literally 1 to 5% of the stool microbiome on testing.
Okay.
Yeah, and hardly anyone does that. Yeah. And then it'll eventually bring up Akkermansia. Akkermansia also should be at 1 to 5% of the stool microbiome. And then with the two phyla, we only have two main groups in the gut, Bacteroides and Clostridiales. We want eventually 40 to 50% of each of these. But for a lot of people, because of dysbiosis, it'll be switched, like it'll be 30/70 or 10/90, or just really off, or really all low. Instead, there's like lots of extraneous species like yeast and molds and parasites. So it's like a pie chart, and it's like, for me, a wealth portfolio when I look at the composition of the gut on different testing. And we can rebuild all of it. If there's bankruptcies, lows and deficits, we can bring them back again. By just bringing in bifido again, all the rest can actually fill in. And we're really lucky. There are different brands now. Like we have Pendulum for Akkermansia. We have some of the Clostridium species, like Clostridium butyricum. It's in a variety of different probiotics. We have our Microbiome Mojo has the bacilli species, which are spore-based probiotics. We don't need a lot of them. They're less than 0.05% of the whole gut microbiome, but we need some, and bringing them on will help shift things.
Yeah, I'm looking at this product now. I had never heard of Bacillus pumilus and Bacillus megaterium. Those are new for me.
Yeah, they're novel and new to the American market. So I'm really proud of them. They're really great. And they make different B vitamins. We're often missing the methylated B vitamins, and just really healing. Yeah. Some people with either constipation or diarrhea, they like in less than 7 days, they're healed, and they could have dealt with it for decades. Yeah. Yeah. So they're all part of like squeezing out some of the pathogens, because we won't forever get rid of pathogens. We've always lived with them, and they're going to be around. But when the keystone are there, they're very calming. They're regulating. It's like a reset. They'll calm the hostile pathogens. So they may be around, but they're not creating chaos. That's the key.
Okay.
Yeah. Got it. Controlling the party.
Yeah.
So Akkermansia, I've been following the research, and it's so fascinating, but I personally have not been good about taking it. Even like Pendulum I took years ago, but I just did a new stool test, and it showed up that my Akkermansia was really low. I think you just said like 1 to 5% is the goal or something. And mine was like 1%. It was like the very low end. So I'm going to start taking that. But what are some of the benefits people see when adding that in, specifically Akkermansia?
Sometimes nothing, because it needs size. Yeah, studies show it has to have bifidobacteria lactis, and also Bifidobacteria infantis. So we have both of those in our probiotic, and people just don't have enough of these allies for them to anchor the Akkermansia and for it to flourish enough. And also has to get fed. It really loves like OPCs, proanthocyanidins. These are like the purple dark, blue colors in plants and vegetables, like purple cabbage, berries, blackberries, granite. So it's really important to have the right prebiotics to feed bifido. Bifido also eats all those. Good bifido eat those too. So it's a science to bring a certain species back online. It's kind of like a extinct like rhino. How are we going to baby this thing and not let it die, right? Take away some of the predators that might feed on it, right? And what is it like to eat? And who are his friends? Who's his network of allies? Who's in the community that it needs? Yeah. So you can't look at one species alone. Um, it's a narrow-minded, fixated thing that we love to do in the Western world. But yeah, I love peptides. Yeah, I've known the founder, and she had an earlier company, Whole Biome, and she always has like really great products. Yeah. So she has Clostridium in the PGC product, which is an important friend of it as well. So people do better with the PGC product rather than just Akkermansia alone.
Okay. Or in Pendulum's new GLP-1 product, which I just think is interesting marketing because everyone's, so overwhelmed and interested in the GLP-1s. It's essentially just Akkermansia, but they added in some chicory inulin, which is prebiotic.
Yeah. And they're FODMAPs. So some people with gut or food allergies, they won't tolerate that necessarily, but it's important to build it to tolerate it eventually, right?
Yeah.
There's also overgrowth. Some people take it and then they end up with an overgrowth, and then they have some weird signs and symptoms that are unexplained. Like anything, too much of a good thing, if it's not the right timing, right? There's a timing I do with clients, depending on what's going on with them. Like if they have mast cell high histamine, there's certain things we don't do, as you know. So, because they can further trigger more. If we initiate the immune system too much, that's because it's already on hyperdrive, right? We don't want that. So there's certain things we don't do. Our probiotic tends to be really safe because it's histamine-free species. So it tends to be really safe for mast cell and SIBO. It's SIBO safe. But even then, people are really sensitive. They're really highly allergic to everything in their world, including even the flora in their gut. We go really, really slow. Just a teeny pinch is good enough. And that's what some people do for months even, because it's healing. And eventually it's going to shift things. But some people, they may be allergic to their own bifidobacteria or their own lactobacilli because it's been leaking into their bloodstream. So we want to heal the nervous system and normalize cortisol. So that's when adrenal protocols become really important for the gut.
Well, I just want to say, like, this is a big reason people are like afraid of supplements. They're like, you hear one thing, it's like, don't take this. Okay, take this. But it speaks to the importance of working with a practitioner or a physician who can really navigate and titrate and time out these protocols with you.
I have to say, biohackers, we're the worst for like adrenal health. We push and persist and do all these.
Just dump all the adaptogens down our throat. More is better.
Yeah. Oh,
not all of us.
Let's ourselves. Let's like starve ourselves all for the name of biohacking.
Yeah.
It's a delicate balance.
Yeah.
And the bio-individuality is so important. So I just wanted to make sure
just know that. Terrible for adrenals.
What is?
Some of those hacks we do are just terrible for the adrenals.
Well, we're running off the heels of men that led this biohacking movement, and we're starting to navigate like the nuances of being a female and the menstrual cycle, and yes, understanding stress better, I think. But it's so important to continue this educational process. And
I have we have a teaching coming up, and we'll have replays available as well. It's called Summer Series 24, and I'm going to talk about the benefit of microdosing GLP-1 agonists like tirzepatide and Ozempic, semaglutide. But we have clients that come to us, they've been on these wonderful things. They lost, they look great, and now they lost their period, and they're young, or they want to, and it's like, well, okay, you have to like maybe consider, going lower on the dose on tirzepatide or Ozempic, and they just will not do it.
Oh, they're just in love with it.
Yeah, and they're literally in menopause when they're 40 something.
Oh gosh,
because of their diet.
Big warning.
Yeah, the diet induced. Like for dudes, I used to joke, they were like anorexic, but now because we have anorexia-induced medications like GLP-1. Now we're seeing that so rampantly, epidemically, and even among, biohackers, like really prominent leader biohackers. And I think it's kind of sad, because there's no amount of bio-HRT that's going to emulate what we do on our own in a perfect synced way, synchronized natural rhythm in a way. So there's like risk with all that we do, even though we can like look great or, feel great, just being aware of what the edges are. And so I promote like really good adaptogens Yeah, so on our dispensary, we have a adrenal protocol. Perfect adrenals just means, people are in really great natural ancestral rhythm. They don't have wired, tired feelings at night or all day. They got great energy when they wake up. They're not dealing with any kind of cortisol dysregulation issues, whether it's autoimmunity or long haul or gut or whatever, right? Cancer, and they're in good rhythm, and their progesterone is as natural as possible where it's at a peak. So I do check blood levels like day 21 for women if they're having their cycle still, really nice. It's nice when it's like 14 or 16 and above. That's like kind of the fertility clinic values, if people are
Or
shooting.
progesterone. Is that what you're talking about?
Okay. Yeah. US, not EU numbers. Yeah. And having like decent SHBG, sex hormone binding globulin. Yeah, for a lot of people, it's like 50-50. That's a marker of stress when it's over 30 for men or women. I like it below 30.
Oh, wow.
I will check people's reverse T3 because again, if they're manorexic or women, addicted to Ozempic, they're not eating their macros or protein enough, and they're going to drop, and their reverse T3 will come on board, and that will stop weight loss because it like slows us down. It makes us hibernating pigs, and pigs don't hibernate. But reverse T3 just will stop everything. Your hands start getting cold, your core body temperatures drop. We want 98.6. This is the temperature that fries COVID. It fries also a lot of parasites. It fries yeast and candida, and it fries viruses, all the co-infection viruses like chronic activation of Epstein-Barr, CMV, Parvo, HHV6, HHV7, any of the herpes family viruses, and including COVID.
And how do you get body temperature back up if it is low?
So it's to eat all macros 4 to 5 times a day. Small frequent meals. Just eating is a metabolic event and it raises body temperatures. Plenty of natural sleep, right? A little bit of exercise, 10,000 steps a day. That's not a lot. This is like a fraction of what our ancestors did. Come on.
Yeah.
And just to clarify, the small frequent meals, that would be more of a healing protocol for thyroid adrenal hypofunction. This is not a long-term goal.
No more yo-yo dieting, no more starvation. Because as soon as our body perceives starvation, it goes into survival mode, temperatures drop, all resources get conserved. There's no fat loss anymore. If you want liberation of fat, you have to raise the basal metabolic rate, not lower it.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Another question, circling back to sex hormone binding globulin. If you see that high in someone and they have a pretty stress-free life, could it be a pathogen in the gut? Could it be a virus? Like
anyone that has not done weeding seeding protocols, they have umpteen million pathogens going on. It's just whether,
and that could elevate that number alone.
Oh, absolutely. Right. Absolutely, right. And it could be someone stealthy, right? It could be in the nervous system, could be in the brain, it could be in the liver, could be in the gallbladder if they have one, it could be in their ovaries or vagina or their.
And how do you know? How do you know where it's hiding? Or does it not matter? You still just attack it?
Well, humans have like 88 different systems, and it's a little bit of energy work, but you can often tell with blood work or talking with them, where are they dealing with inflammation? That's what's abnormal. Usually people will know when you drill it down. And it could have been something they've had since childhood, like, oh, I've been dealing with this dry spout, since I was a kid. Well, okay, fuck, you've had yeast and parasites since you were a kid, right? Or it's butt acne that no one ever looks at. Well, you've had H. pylori and parasites and yeast since that showed up.
Yeah, but still, we come back to the gut. Healing the adrenals, healing the gut.
Your blood and your body started attacking it. So I check anti-candida antibodies. I love the food IgG from Mosaic. You'll get the anti-candida antibody, and I'll just see where it is. Like, is it flatlined or is it like high? Everyone's got it lit up. So the goal is to normalize the immune system so it's not attacking candida, because we all have it, we need it, and to just lower the burden of it so that the body can heal. We don't want to knock it out. We just want to lower the burden so it's not alerting the immune system, and then calm the immune system. So there are a lot of different ways to calm the immune system. Like, we all love cold plunge. Okay, that's fabulous.
I don't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not Renee. She's the
Okay.
sauna queen.
Oh yeah, sauna's
I
great.
like cold, but in very small doses.
Yeah, I like
Not-
spices too. Yeah, I like. I'm into heat shock proteins. Like, let's
Yeah.
fry it. Let's just fry it.
Yeah.
yeah.
That sounds
Yeah.
much less painful. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I love like 40 minute sauna. I kind of screwed around. I didn't do enough binders, and I was like getting into a loop of like recirculating all my garbage. Like I was like, oh,
Got to take the trash out.
Oh,
I'm
no.
not feeling good. I was like, oh, because I'm forgetting to take my binder before going to sauna.
Oh,
So people should
yeah.
do
What's-
binders every time, 30 to 60 minutes prior to the sauna.
30 to 60 minutes prior. And
Prior.
are you using a selective binder, using fulvic and humic acids? What's your preference?
I love fulvic and humic acid. They sound great, but they all have heavy metals if you check into it. So why burden the body a bit more? Like, how about something like a little safer, like charcoal clay, a little IMD, which is sold by Quicksilver. It's in their ultra binder, but you can also buy it separately and scoop it. I don't do cocaine, but it's like a little cocaine scoop spoon, apparently.
It is. It's the tiniest little spoon. Yeah. This little white vial. Yeah. Do not take that bottle to like a Vegas nightclub. They will definitely confiscate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
You're like, it's for my gut, I swear.
Yeah. The sauna on the dance floor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, that's a good one.
I trade, and cholestyramine still is a mainstay for a lot of the fat soluble toxins, including mold and mycotoxins, yeah, which we all have to some degree.
Can you talk about that a little bit more?
So cholestyramine and Welchol, these are prescription fatty acid binders. So they're used for cholesterol management. And in the old day, it was really helpful, and it reversed coronary artery disease along with niacin, all before statin wars and stuff. And they're really effective. And partly how they really work so well is because they're chelating up fatty toxins like plastics, phthalates, all the petroleum related chemicals out there that we breathe in vapors, and also mycotoxins. Mycotoxins are a big thing. If you look in an oat, no one has 0 levels of Aspergillus and Fusarium. Nobody. This is wrong in our environment right now. Yeah, and we don't do enough prebiotics. We don't do enough fermented foods. We don't do enough fiber, and we certainly do not do enough probiotics. Even me, I make it, but it's not like I shovel it in every day.
Yeah. And what are your thoughts on fiber? Because we have the carnivore diet with all the popularity now today, but then
I've seen the microbiome of a couple carnivores. They are all missing bifido. Bifido is an oxalate degrader. We have using our probiotics.
I love to demonize oxalates, but is that really the problem?
Well, they tolerated it earlier, somewhere they lost the ability. They got antibiotics or stressed, or they became anorexic, and they starved their bifido and lactobacilli that break down oxalates. Of course, they're going to die off. That's why I'm not the biggest fan of intermittent fasting or like strict weird diets without prebiotics.
Without prebiotics.
You can't resurrect what ends up being extinct.
Can you name some other dietary prebiotics that people can look out for and add in?
Dietary ones? Oh yeah. I mean, if we have a more ancestral diet, I love the centenarian diet. Have you guys looked at blue zone diets?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Tell everybody.
I want to move to a blue zone one day.
Yeah.
Me too. I want to go to Ikaria.
Yes. And Crete, Greece.
Yeah.
Or Crete. Yes.
Yeah.
So tell us about the blue zone diet, some of the plant foods.
Pretty rich in cooked resistant starches. Beans and rice is a mainstay for most of them. All of them except one. The LA one.
What's the one?
Oh, I think they do eat beans and rice. They're vegetarian. Actually, they are. Yeah.
Oh, and Loma,
the Seventh-day Adventist.
Loma Linda, yeah. But they all eat, they all eat forms of beans and rice and root vegetables.
Yeah, because now we think their beans and rice are bad because we're wearing CGMs, and people are like, I can't eat it.
So what our clients see when they're doing CGM or monitoring their insulin, when they heal their gut, they can eat anything again. Yeah. So I dealt with that too. I had too many overgrowths, and you're not going to be shocked, but a lot of the overgrowths, they eat sugar and carbs, simple carbs. So of course, you're feeding them. And when we heal the gut, then the ability expands, right? There's an expansion of what prebiotic foods are acceptable once they're back. So I find it really most important to get the oxalate degrading bacteria back in. And our species, our probiotic has 5 species that are all oxalate degraders. And it's important to like really work to get those back in. And then quickly people will see they can eat kale and spinach and oxalate foods containing foods again. And
Ooh.
and
Okay.
in the integrative world, it's not well known, you know, but oxalates in the body aren't just from dietary sources like kale and spinach and green leafy vegetables. They come from yeast and mold. Candida and yeast and mold, they're making oxalates. And
Okay.
you don't have enough glutathione, you don't have enough B6 vitamins and other B vitamins, you don't break them down. So you need to have the whole pathway grease. It's called the AGXT pathway. Some people have some SNPs there. They're going to have more stony kind of presentation, like kidney stones, fibrocystic breast, ovarian cysts, fibroids, PCOS, prostate issues. These are just calcium oxalate mini stones that have grown a bit bigger and they gotten encapsulated. But that's what studies show when we biopsy fibrocystic breast. It's just calcium oxalate. It's from candida and mold species in the body, in the terrain. They can be anywhere, everywhere. So when we work with clients, it's really important to look at the terrain, like tongue, like nose to toes. So we implement a lot of peptides. Like one of the first peptides we'll do is the C-Lank peptide nasally. We'll drop a vial of KPV in there, 5 milligrams or 10 milligram vial, and have people nasal it 4 times a day. Well, 4 sprays at minimum, 4 to 8 sprays a day, once or twice a day. So that starts to work here because we can heal the gut, but if they're dripping yeast and mold again back into the, and staph, you know, back into the gut, it's undoing a lot of the work, you can imagine. Yeah, and our sinuses are really big terrain. It's a big real estate.
So C-Lank will help with that?
C-Lank does. C-Lank in animal studies, it heals stomach, gastric inflammation, and ulcers.
Oh,
All
wow.
peptides
Okay.
antimicrobial. So I haven't seen data, but I'm certain C-Lank's antimicrobial. KPV is not just anti-inflammatory. It's actually a bioregulator. It's like really teeny tiny. It's not just a bioregulator. It's actually very antimicrobial. So studies show it's anti-aspergillus, it's anti-candida, it's anti-staph. So it's going to get marcons, which we see often for mold and Lyme pictures. Yeah, so we have to start there. And then C-Lank is a really great antidepressant. So
what is?
Everyone's depressed, especially if they're like depriving themselves of food and not seeing their friends and socializing, and they're doing way too many biohacks. No, I'm kidding.
You have to biohack with your community.
Yeah, that's
not alone.
Yeah, or overlooking the free ancestral biohacks. It's like we can get really excited about toys, but the toys are just like a supplement when we can't get to the ancestral free stuff.
Community-based ones are the best. Yeah. Anxiety. It also helps anxiety in clinical studies too.
Yeah.
But the non-responder rate, like 44% of people, I think one study showed response to C-Lank. Not everybody does. So you have to kind of try it for a vial or two before giving up. Yeah. And then actually after a vial or two, we start to jab it, inject it if they're okay with that.
Okay.
Very cool.
I did C-Lank and C-Max for 30 days, but I was just doing it for the potential nootropic effect.
Yeah.
I didn't feel anything, but maybe it was doing other things in the body. I don't know.
Yeah, probably was doing other things too. Were you just doing nasal only or also doing
just
jab?
nasal?
Okay. Yeah,
I
did also to jabs also. Yeah. Yeah, those are good peptides.
Okay. Cool.
Well,
I guess
subtle. It's also very subtle. So we have clients do a lot of different surveys. You know, we don't have a blood test for depression and anxiety. You know, I can kind of tell someone, oh, how flat are they on Zoom with me, right? Like, oh, as they get better. But we're doing all these hacks, so it's hard to tell really what's doing it. But if you do a survey, oh, how's your mood? Or, oh, how, you know, anxious are you on a scale of 1 to 10? Or, oh, how, you know, everyone reports they're better. But who knows, like, is it just one different change that did it? Or is it all these other changes that are also happening? Because when we heal our gut-brain axis, that's huge. Like permanently, people are going to make more serotonin at the right time, and you know, proper or adrenaline.
Yeah. So just to kind of recap and clarify that, it's like getting the bifido and the keystone species, maybe making sure we're not overtraining, making sure we're not underfeeding, managing our stress, and healing the gut lining. Am I missing anything?
No, those are perfect.
And sunshine. Maybe some sunshine.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on like vagus nerve stimulation?
Oh, I'm all into it. Oh, here, gamma core was like one thing I used to do a lot.
Oh,
Like,
gamma core.
zap, like you can do it 30
Yeah, a
zaps.
little zzz.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Okay.
we're meant to be in community. I'm so glad you brought it up, Renee. Like when people see each other, the just faces, right? Studies show our mood lifts. Well, there's a lot of oxytocin. Even better if we hug and touch and then have all the other love languages, like give each other words of affirmation, get people out of their head into their heart. Like not just say, oh, why I love you, but say, oh, I love you because you're always so positive, or oh, I love you, the other day you just put your hand on my shoulder and I felt so cherished. Like getting out of the head. Yeah.
Mm.
And
I
in
love you
the heart.
because
Yeah,
it's
because
so good.
it's getting into the heart, and it affirms so many things in a deeper, like heart-centered way. And we get our gamma brainwave that way.
Mm,
That speaks to me
good
because
point.
I'm physical touch and words of affirmation. So hug me and say, I love you because.
Yeah, and then make it quality time, do it for 5-10 minutes or 20.
Yeah, we'll just get all of the love languages. Yeah.
Forget about cold dunking, plunging, let's just touch for like 20 minutes and hug. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great service. For me, like love languages are supplements. So, I always love giving supplements to people. But yeah,
Oh, I love that.
we all have different love languages. Yours are probably hacks, right? Oh, sharing a hack, that's your love language. Hacks are your love language. Yeah. So we
Mine's
don't
acts of service is mine. So
yeah.
yeah, I guess buying me a biohack. I don't know. Just my love language.
Yeah. Buying you a sauna. But yeah, acts of service. I mean,
Yeah.
I know that's very present in the blue zones, like just doing things for others. And
Right.
I love that you consider them supplements. That's really brilliant.
It is. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're ancestrally wired for these. And when we don't get it, I think our DNA recognizes that. There's no filling in. There really isn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I always love looking at the blue zones. And, I think one big thing is people always talk about how people in the blue zones drink alcohol. And, in the biohacking community, people are pretty anti-alcohol. It's a neurotoxin. We should never be drinking it. And it's like, but how are the blue zones tolerating that? But I think a lot of it is their gut microbiomes are healthy. They're low stress. They have community. So maybe they can handle a little bit of a toxin and it's not a big deal.
I mean, I love like a little bit of alcohol. Like, yeah, in Okinawa, the little women, 190 years old, they were drinking little shot glasses of rice wine. And rice wine, like Dr. Houston in the functional field, he really, drilled down a lot of studies about it. There's like ACE inhibitors in there, which is a common class of antihypertensive drug. Some wine, because it's a fermentation product, it is healthy. We're getting postbiotics.
But
Yeah.
not American wine because there's pig biotics and molds and all kinds of
Right.
la la la.
Glyphosate. I know you have to do
Yeah,
the
but that
dry
good
farming.
Okinawan wine, I love it. In that Blue Zone documentary, they asked her like, "What's your favorite tea?" And she said, "Wine."
Right.
That's it.
Exactly. Oh, I love that. I didn't know that, but I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So I look at the fungal overgrowth because the fungal overgrowths like Candida yeast and Aspergillus, I mean, they're part of like bread making, right? Well, it's because they're making alcohol. They're converting sugar into another energy form. And with people who haven't done like a gut reset, their body levels are at DUI levels sometimes for alcohol and aldehydes. And so
Wow.
if there's any degree of fatty liver, I know they have parasites and yeast on board because their body is being calcified, with alcohol already by the microbes. And their E. coli, many other gram-negative bacteria, they also pump out alcohol and aldehydes that are fibrosing the body. So we don't need alcohol necessarily if they haven't done a gut reset.
Can you imagine like getting pulled over for like an alcohol, like a DUI? You just had too much bread.
They have so much brain fog. It's definitely possible. And then for Asperger and spectrum kids, it's already the case. They do have DUI levels of blood alcohol over 0.08 from their flora. They were born that way, or they got antibiotics too much. That's shifted things, or a vaccine that shifted their biome too quick, or COVID virus.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So much to consider.
I will say when I don't really ever drink beer now, because if I have like 2 or 3 sips of beer, and maybe it's like candida or yeast, maybe there's something in my gut, but like I feel drunk with like 2 sips of beer. So
I
whatever's
feel
in
brain
there.
foggy. The
Brain
veil just
fog.
comes down. I'm like,
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of histamines in beer too. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Histamines. Okay.
Yeah. The beer, yeah, can have that issue.
Yeah, it's no
yeah.
fun. So I don't drink it, but
On the topic of histamines, because you briefly mentioned it before in relation to MCAS, which is mast cell activation syndrome. Mast cells are a key part of our immune system, but they can be overactivated,
Right.
right? And so I would love to hear kind of your take on histamines, because we look at histamines in nature and food, and there's a lot of quote unquote healthy foods that are high in histamine or histamine producing. Can you
Yes,
talk a little bit about the balance of the immune system and the mast cells?
absolutely. Like our immune system is meant to protect us. Everything it does is to protect us. So even the histamines that are high, when we do a methylhistamine blood test, if it's high, it just means your body's just really doing its best, right, to protect you. We have to go to the root issue, like what ended up triggering it to that degree, to that abnormal level, right? So we always look at biotoxins, and usually it's not just one or two. Babies now, when they check cord blood, studies in the EWG, which is the environmental work group, they found, babies, they haven't even breathed one breath of air. They have 400 different chemicals on board from mama. And we joke in integrative medicine, like, oh, how do we detox best? We'll have a baby. Well, men can't do that, but 80% of our mercury will go to the baby. And depending on your SNP, your mutations, like it could be less, but yeah,
wow.
so we're in a pretty overtoxic world. If we can heal our air, water, food, we're doing everyone a service, including ourselves. So there's always a root issue, like it's some kind of biotoxin. Mold is usually high up there, Lyme biotoxins, mercury, heavy metals, arsenic, lead. But you combine all of it, you heal, but it's a never ending thing. You have to kind of consider ways to gently detox this. And then the histamines will normalize, because then the immune system won't be on alert. Also trauma, people around toxic people, toxic family, toxic work, toxic cities, toxic environments that are maybe asbestos or lead paint or mold. Usually a lot of it's mold now. So it's just a matter of trying to, like, okay, what's in the environment? What can we
calm it down?
Burden, right? And then the nervous system will naturally come in. And it's about, like, looking at, like, not overdoing things. Like, we're meant to really rest and do little. Like, to be like 99% parasympathetic, 0.005 sympathetic.
We got that all wrong.
Yeah.
Like, white knuckling everything, when really we just have to give ourselves permission, like, oh, it's okay, we don't have to be on hyper overdrive, or especially
So
women.
true.
We're like foragers, we're artistic, and we have the creative force within us. We make life. We have to have that nourishment at the heart level.
Yeah, so we can create, less doing so we can be and create.
Yeah, somehow we got the notion, probably with all the world wars, and women had to handle a lot when the men were gone or dead, and this, like, do, and it's not really our genetics for that. It's not.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. Yeah. And I just want to close the loop on this histamine thing, because we've been talking about peptides, and the audience knows I had a bucket overflow moment earlier this year. My immune system, there were a lot of stressors, sleep deprivation. I really, like, set the stage for, like, one thing to tip the bucket over. And so the downstream effect was higher histamine. And you were actually the one that called out, like, do not take BPC potentially in this situation. And I think a lot of people just jump to BPC, body protective compound, is like this all healing compound, but there are some contraindications. So just to close the loop on peptides.
Yeah, normally it is, but not, I found out the hard way as well. Like, one of my staff, like, I didn't know she had mold, and I kept asking her, and but she had IBD. So, like, half the IBD is mold. Actually, the root issue is mold and heavy metals. And I was like, why can't you tolerate BPC? I've never heard of that. I scoured all the forums, hardly found anything on it. And it's actually a huge fucking deal. It's a huge fucking, BPC.
You can't find anything online. I mean, now I get it. It's overactivation of the immune system.
Yeah, I met some people with tethered core. That's a really severe mold, Ehlers-Danlos, histamine issue, highly allergic, and they ended up paralyzed. Like, they took BBC, they were in a wheelchair. I was like, holy fuck, like, this should be really, like, contraindicated and black box warning. Like, because so many people have mast cell issues. So even oral peptides are problematic. But once you heal the gut and you know, there's a lowering in the burden of the biotoxins once you identify them, and a reduction in nervous system elevation. So like somatic trauma release, you know, healing modalities that bring on oxytocin, all the love languages you love, get it from all the people around you, right? Yeah, and touch and massages and all that good stuff. That's when all the healing happens.
Yeah,
Yeah,
excellent.
it's not hard to heal mast cell. Usually there's trauma, you know, and then the nervous system, but also it's the gut, it's the biotoxins on board, how to unlayer it very slowly, gradually, nothing fast. Because slow is really fast for a mast cell. Yeah, yeah, it has to be a proper staging of like what the toxins are coming out. Yeah, and a lot of people, they're Vikings like you. And I look back at my acute history. I think I had mold for me, and I had mercury for sure. But I got into that loop. I had vulvodynia actually, so it was a pretty severe, you know, mast cell. But I got the right root issues, and the pain was only like a few weeks before I found the root issue. But yeah, everyone has to kind of do a little detective work and digging, you know, and see what works. And then if it works, do more of it, and kind of be aware of what the contraindications are, so that because if you get looped into something, oh my God, it may be 2 to 4 weeks to get back to the baseline.
Yeah.
Right.
So start low and go slow, I think, which I think is always a good piece of advice.
Detox. Like I put myself into a loop, like I didn't take binders enough. And then, oh my God, I was like getting sick again. But once
we just want to heal. We're like, we just want to get to the destination.
Catch up. You know, we already lost much of our lives, and you know, we just go, but it's okay to slow down. It's okay.
Yeah.
Oh, then I had an accident. I had screwed my foot. I rolled over my foot, and so I had to really stick around and do nothing. So Universal is like, well, send us messages if we hear them.
It'll make you slow down.
Yeah, you know. Yeah. We get these slow down messages. Everyone I talk to, they get a slow down message. We're like, oh yeah, okay, we're gonna slow down. That lasts for like 10 seconds.
Yeah, I know that happened to me way back when I was go for so long, and then I got mono. Boom, in bed 6 months.
You will rest. Right?
You will rest. I warned you.
I remember it. Yeah.
Yep. And then you can't. Once you get that final message, you're like, all right, I'm done. I gotta rest for real. Yeah, that parasympathetic state is so important.
Your pain is other people's gain. See, we learn these like beautiful, edifying things that will help other women and biohackers.
Yeah, it's a big goal of the podcast, is to share even just what we've been through personally. It's like
exactly, yeah. And think about it, what we go through. Oh my God, hundreds of other women, tens of thousands are going through it. They just don't know how to address it, and they're getting walled. You know, their doctors don't know how to address it. Many functional medicine coaches and clinicians don't know how to address it either, and they're still handing out standard, you know, BPC or whatever, then not realizing it's kind of crashing someone.
Yeah, it's got to be so personal.
To some degree. Yeah. Other things like may not. I like to share the things publicly that I know work for like 99% of people, to not, you know, get them in a loop. But I like to take it too far. You know, they'll do 3 detoxes in one day. I'm like, no. Like half of one is good enough. You know, you're getting, but they, you know, it's hard. Everyone wants to catch up. It's really difficult.
Yeah.
Patience, difficult.
What are you finding that works the most for the histamines right now? Just avoidance, or like any probiotics?
So I've been doing some gut therapeutics, low histamine diet, not 100%, but a lot of that, a lot of nervous system regulation, and just really being consistent with sleep and circadian rhythm.
That's awesome. That's the foundation for all kind of healing protocols. That's awesome.
Yeah. But you know, I pay attention to the symptoms. Like itchiness was my kind of progress tracker, and so I can still feel there's a little bit, and I'm doing testing as well to confirm that, but I'm not going to do a blood test every single day. So just really trying to listen to my body, because prior to that, I had a phase where I wasn't listening to my body, and as we just mentioned, it's like your body will just knock you down if you're not listening.
I hear you. Yeah, when I got into the detox loop, like I was not listening to it for whatever. I was like, I'm gonna do this. And then I was like, what is going on with me? Holy shit. Yeah.
Yeah. It's all
So,
part of the lesson and the journey.
We all
Yeah.
do. Yeah, we all do it. Yeah.
yeah. Well, thank
Oh,
you so much for sharing all of your wisdom and experience, and so much to dig into with gut healing protocols and your institute. Can you share a little bit more about where people can find you and access more of you?
Yeah, we're on Instagram and Facebook, thegutinstitute.com. And if you want to look at oral peptides and the training we do for peptides, I love training about contraindications and what are, kind of best practices or how to navigate the world. We have trainings. It's all under thegutinstitute.com/peptides. And if you use Babes 10% off of any of the training there. And we give continuing education to health coaches and certain health professionals for that. It's exciting to teach. Like a lot of it is my pain that I learned the hard way, before I come up with a protocol. And we always, we see all levels of different chronic illness like I experience myself. And so a lot of the protocols are really careful, and I think they heal a lot of people. That's what we hear all the time. Some people, they haven't eaten certain foods or gluten for decades or years, or they're celiac, and then in just 6 months, they can eat gluten and have not problems, or they can eat histamine foods again or oxalate containing foods again, and they thought, oh my God, they thought they were screwed, they couldn't eat that for a long time. But it's just our body, the 88 different systems, what's missing, what's a deficit, bankrupt, and how to fill it in. And it's not that hard at all. And I hope coaches will implement a lot of the protocols for themselves and their clients. It's not that hard, actually. Yeah, thank you for letting me
Wonderful.
talk
Thank
about that.
you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It was really fun.
yeah.
Yes. I learned so much today. Thank you.
Yeah. We got through half of our questions, I think.
Yeah, we did pretty good. Pretty good.
So fun picking your brain. So for everyone listening, definitely scroll down, check out the show notes. We'll have all those links, so it's easy to follow and learn more. Dr. Grace, one final question for you. Can you leave our audience with one final piece of advice, something they should do today to optimize their health?
Oh, that's a good one, huh? How about more oxytocin hugs for people, whether they're digital or even better, real life?
Love it.
Yes.
Yes. Or ask,
hug.
okay, this is what I'll do in Kundalini or in a talk, but like put their hands on each other's hearts and say, I see you, I cherish you. And say it to one another. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
I'm
cool.
Do an animated heart on the Zoom for that one.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
I saw this,
my digital hug.
Your digital hug. I saw a picture on Instagram the other day that some art museum is doing this exhibit, and they have the skeletons and then like a fake heart showing two people hugging and how close the hearts are together when they're hugging in the whole body. I'll see if I can send you a picture of that. It was really beautiful. Yeah, the hearts are like right there.
The EMF out of the heart center is amazing. The animal center, yeah, it's stronger than our head, actually, right?
Yeah. All that's good information out of like the Gupta program, and Dr. Patrick Porter talks about so much healing right here.
Yeah, and your program's so great. You're bringing all the sisterhood together. I love it. Our community. It's like a brain. We're all one hive, one brain. I feel like.
Yeah.
Totally.
Thank you for all that you do.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. So grateful
lovely
for this.
to have you. Thanks for sharing all of your wisdom with our audience, and look forward to seeing you in person again and picking your brain a little bit more. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Yes. And thanks to everyone that tuned in today. We will see you next time.